And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome to your LSU Football Fix. I'm your host, Preston Guy. Joined with me, as always, is our faithful co-host, although not always, but most of the time he's pretty spot on, Zack Nagy of LSU Country on SportsIllustrated.com. Zack, what's going on, man?
Not too much, man. We had a really, really busy day of LSU content. We had, men's practice today.
Oh, yeah.
Talked to McMahon earlier, too. Then we had players afterwards. So, and when I say players, I'm referring to football players after. So, busy day, man. Yesterday, women's basketball. It's a lot's going on in the LSU athletics world, I'll tell you that much.
There's no doubt about that. I do want to touch on that practices because they said they had 2,500 people at that women's basketball practice. You realize there's Division I men's basketball games that don't draw that many people, and yet a practice for a women's basketball game. Do you think 2,500 is about right based on what you saw?
Yeah, it's about right. I mean, one side of the lower bowl was completely full, and then you kind of moved into the student section as well. So it was really impressive what Kim Mulkey and them did yesterday. There were people lining up at that door probably an hour and a half before they opened the gates and stuff. So it was a really impressive showing from them. And obviously practice was fantastic, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Sure, no doubt. Welcome back to the show. Zack was off last week. He went to go celebrate in his hometown of New Orleans with his family.
Celebration.
Little birthday celebration. I learned he has a twin, so celebrated with her. But tonight we're gonna talk a little bit about more of that Jekyll and Jayden theme that we saw during the game. I'm gonna talk about what went wrong with him at the beginning of the game, and then of course in the back half of the game he was nearly flawless. So there's really not much to talk about. Then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about the defense and what issues I saw. I was able to chart most of the plays today. So kind of go through what's going wrong with this defense. What shocked me is how diverse the issues they're having are. They're doing most things well most of the time, but that's not the struggle with defense. It's about never not doing something wrong, because you can do something right for 50 plays. And the one play you do it wrong, you get smoked for a touchdown. So it is funny with that. And then we'll talk a little bit about BK notes, get to your comments, that kind of jazz. Gary Williams, what's up, Preston? Hopefully the defense comes to play this week. They're going to need to. Zack, are you scared of the Ole Miss passing attack?
I wouldn't say necessarily scared, but they certainly provide a dynamic offensive attack. And Lane Kiffin's a mastermind, whether people want to believe it or not. He's just such an interesting offensive coach. So, I mean, there's certainly some things to worry about when it comes to this Ole Miss team. And kind of watched a little film today. I haven't gotten enough film study on them quite yet, but it's a pretty interesting offense that they run.
Yeah, it is. And Lane Kiffin, of course, he's going to know how to get vertical on you. All right, before we go too far, I do want to thank our sponsor, Celebrity Theaters, for making what we do possible, because they're our title sponsor this season. They're Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater in the state. So whether you're in Baton Rouge, Broussard, or Ruston, you're gonna get a superior theater experience when you go there. What you're guaranteed to see every time: a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology. The Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games. It's the largest in town. You're going to get a bar featuring wine, beer, frozen drinks. You're going to get those really comfortable, oversized leather reclining seats. And of course, at the Baton Rouge location, you've got the Dolby Atmos 3D sound system, which is the state-of-the-art technology. You usually don't associate locally owned with state-of-the-art technology, but at Celebrity, that is exactly what you get. And again, guys, if you ever do have an issue, they have management there. They're locally owned. It's owned by Shane Morrison, who lives in Prairieville, guys. I mean, not some corporate conglomerate, in LA, the other LA, who just doesn't care about you or whatever. It is a local businessman who owns that. So quality stuff that they do there at Celebrity Theater. So I saw something truly special this weekend, and it had everything to do with the context of the play of Jayden Daniels, not necessarily how well he played. Of course, he was SEC co-offensive player of the week again, 20 of 29, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, which looks good on paper. But what I saw was a really rattled, shaken up quarterback. Jekyll, if you will. 7 of 14 for 70 yards and an interception. And looking at his plays, it was worse than his stat line looked. I'll go out and say that was his worst performance as an LSU Tiger, to the point where right before that final drive before half, I did hear some boos in Tiger Stadium. There was a dull roar of people booing. And what did he do after that? Well, he turned around and hit Brian Thomas for a 20-some-odd yard gain, and then hit him for a 50-yard gain for a touchdown with 30 seconds before halftime in a spot you desperately needed it. And then he finished the game 13 of 15, with one of those incompletions being a throw out of the back of the end zone in a mismanaged clock situation, which I went on a rant on a post-game show about that. It ended up being fine, but it's just one of those things you pull your hair out, because you could have masterfully handled that, but you instead decided to just kind of do okay. Jaden was atrocious for the first 2.8, 2.9 quarters. I'm sorry, 1.8, 1.9 quarters of this football game before those final 30 seconds. And his issues were mostly inaccuracy, which is very much unlike him. He had 6 inaccurate throws. 2 of them were deep balls underthrown, and 4 were very easy throws he should have made. 1 terrible decision where he had tried to force it to the tight end, and it got intercepted. And then there was a sack he took off. He missed a dump off. So a lot of really bad plays from him. But then what really impresses me, in the face of all that adversity, he channeled that dog in him. He channeled that. He came back and had a nearly perfect football game in an SEC game, in a spot where you needed every bit of that. 13 to 15. The only bad throw from that point on was the 70-yard touchdown, which, by the way, funniest play of the night, where, it's a free play on Arkansas. In depth, the comedy of errors on that. But Zack, do you get what I'm saying about why that's impressive, and what are your thoughts? Am I being hyperbolic here, or do you kind of agree with what I'm saying, that he found that dog in him?
Yeah, no, I mean, kind of Brian Kelly was speaking on it in the post-game press conference for a little bit, just saying how, his experience that he has at the college level is really just starting to show this season. Last year, we saw Jayden kind of get rattled a little bit last year. And once he got rattled, he couldn't really shake back. And it kind of just played into the team struggling to a degree. So now you're seeing him utilize the experience that he has, perform at a level that we didn't even know that he could get to. Because last year, if he would have struggled in the first quarter, the next 2, 3, 4, whichever one quarters wouldn't be as impressive. And now you're seeing him develop, grow, use his experience, and ultimately shine. And that's exactly what happened against, Arkansas on Saturday. Struggled early, didn't let it rattle him, and then shook back and really performed at an elite level for LSU, and ultimately come out on top.
Can you recall a single game performance where a quarterback was struggling as mightily as Jayden was and went on to be nearly perfect? Does anything that you've ever watched remind you of that? I can't think of one.
It was a difficult start to the game, but by no means was it this, tragic, start. It wasn't impressive, and the offensive attack wasn't impressive at all. But I've seen worse quarterback performances, certainly. But for him to, shake back and finish the game strong like he did was something that, was a really pleasant sight to see, especially as SEC play ramps up in a big way.
See, what you're saying is probably the more consensus opinion. I look at that, the way he played specifically, and all before that, the 2 passes to Brian Thomas right before halftime. The 14 throws he made, I looked at them as really bad. And yes, there were some good plays sprinkled in there, but nothing truly incredible. And I mean, the missed opportunities are why. I mean, those deep balls. Now, I do want to say this for him on one of the deep balls. The first deep ball he missed, I believe it was Brian Thomas as well. He missed him by like a yard or two. Like it was mildly under, maybe 3 yards forward, and that's a walk-in touchdown, right?
Right.
He got pass interfered. Okay, Brian Thomas got slapped right before that ball got there. And I realized something on my film study that I didn't realize watching the game. Brian Thomas could have came down with that. Like it's possible. I'm not saying he does, but who knows? I mean, you get your backhand slapped down and you're left with one hand on a 50-yard pass. Yeah, the other deep throw to Brian Thomas, he missed by a crap load. I mean, it was
a ton
really
of
bad.
just like underthrows, in my opinion. Like I believe he missed. Obviously, you said Brian Thomas on one. I think there was a Malik Neighbors one too that I'm trying to remember as well. But no matter what player,
maybe one of the deep balls was Malik Neighbors. Maybe the first one I'm talking about was Malik.
Maybe it was, and either way, no matter who it was, you know, for the most part, just underthrows, uncharacteristic plays on his part. But I'm going to look at it 2 ways. You know, yeah, sure, he underthrew the ball, and it is what it is, and it didn't result in what we wanted it to be. But for him to be taking shots down the field is something that I like to see. Would have loved to see Chris Hilton get hit on a deep ball. He's such an impressive vertical threat. Brian Thomas was obviously a star towards the end of the second quarter and carried that momentum into the second half as well. But, you know, for me, just to see Jaden Daniels taking those deep shots and not being scared, trusting his arm, even if we didn't get the result that we wanted, that's something that I'm really impressed with Jaden in that regard. He's not scared this year. He's not timid. He's doing what this offense is asking him to do and trying to utilize his, you know, deep physical wideouts as best as he can.
Absolutely. And by the way, he only had 3 underthrows on the day. The others, I mean, I guess
it was just so noteworthy. It's just like everybody was talking about it. It was a talk of the town.
Their throws there, if he throws them accurate, I mean, they're all touchdowns.
Exactly.
They're all wide open receivers downfield, which like in the SEC, that shouldn't happen, but it happened and you have to take advantage of them. One of the throws he missed deep was the touchdown to open the second half. Hilarious play, by the way. Just absolute comedy of errors. Arkansas jumps off sides, so it's a free play. Brian Thomas is open by 7 yards somehow. Jayden sees him late, throws it, and somehow after passing up the DB by 7 yards, has to come back past him by about 4 yards or whatever. The DB's looking around like, I can't find the ball. So he comes back to it, catches it, bobbles off his hands, still up in the air. DB can't find it, runs, catches it, and after catching it, they if they couldn't find the ball, they can't find the ball carrier, so nobody tackles him, and he runs unimpeded for a touchdown. Now, atrocious throw by Jayden, but if I'm a coach grading that play, he gets a pass because it's a free play. Right. It's one of those plays where you missed the read, right? And you tried to just catch him late and just throw something up. Well, it's a free play. You're supposed to just throw something up. So what would have gotten him a really bad grade on that is if he saw him late and then chose not to throw it. He gave his receiver a chance. And, you know, it's like last year. Remember the duck he threw against Ole Miss last year that was a touchdown, Jayden Jenkins?
Maybe.
Okay,
maybe.
So part of the blowout was he underthrew Jayden Jenkins by like 10 yards, and Jayden Jenkins caught it, similar touchdown. That's part of why you play quarterback at LSU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get athletes who bail you out and make plays. So again, the inaccuracies with the underneath stuff, which like they're underthrown, but like I'm not really counting that as an underthrow because it's like you threw it to his feet on a comeback or something or a curl. It's just an inaccurate throw. So yeah, I think it was pretty not good, pretty awful. In fact, it was at the point where I was like, I understand what Jayden has done and accomplished. But the fact is that you got to win this ball game, and if he's going to continue to play like that, you might have to turn to Nussmeier because at the end of the day, you have to win this game. And I know I wasn't the only one thinking it, but Of course, Jade showed something that I argue makes him a special athlete, and he showed why he's on pace to throw this year. I did the numbers. 3,888 yards during the regular season. Does that catch you off guard?
Yeah, that's insane.
He's got 12 touchdowns, so he's on pace to throw 36. If you had to guess where that puts him in the LSU record books, where would you say that puts him?
Would it be like 2?
Yeah, 2. That's right. The best season of anybody not named Joe Burrow. No,
Mm-hmm.
There's a wide gap between
one. Yeah.
There's a very wide gap, but that's not unique. That's Joe Burrow and anybody in SEC history, by the way. Like the number 2 for touchdowns in SEC history is 47 from Bryce Young. So like, and Joe Burrow with his 60, there's such a wide gap. It's hilarious. People who think anybody but Joe Burrow is not the best athlete in SEC history, they're insane, dude. Just Joe Burrow just annihilated the record book and did it against the toughest schedule like anybody's ever faced. Like so many just insanity. I know you were a young child back in those days.
What, 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago, your glory days at UL Lafayette.
Those were the days.
Man, it was a pretty good year. So Jayden Daniels on track to have a historically good season at LSU now. Not only would put him in good places in the LSU record books, it would put him just for the regular season at this pace. It would put him at 11th on passing touchdowns in SEC history all time. It's kind of shocking that 36 does that for you, but it does. And it would put him 16th for yardage. Bear in mind, that's just regular season, and this team is almost guaranteed to have some postseason play. So kind of puts some things in perspective. I know there's a lot of nussbusters out there, and I remember I did a poll after the LSU game. 38% of people wanted to turn to Nussmeier after the opening loss. But the fact of the matter is, outside of Joe Burrow, I mean, you can argue that LSU's never had quarterback play like Jayden Daniels. Are you as impressed as these numbers would behoove you to be?
The numbers are just like extremely impressive considering how much of a struggle last season was for the first handful of games. I mean, I think it was first 5 or 6 games of the season, they went through 5 or 6 different starting offensive line rotations. Like, you could sit back and look at the struggles that he had and, missed passes, misreads, not trusting his arm, not pushing it down the field. Kind of the list goes on and on. But for his numbers to be so impressive and, to start off with to have such a slow start to his LSU career is what blows my mind just significantly, because last season was such a struggle for the first handful of games. And then, he just flipped the switch and turned it up in a big way and shined. And so, yeah, the numbers are alarming and it's certainly impressive. And when you look at quarterbacks, in LSU history, you're ultimately going to have to put Jayden Daniels up there among, some really impressive names, because what he did last season was impressive. And how he's starting off this year is also impressive. The sky's the limit to what Jayden can do. And this team's only going to go as far as he takes them. So, is it an SEC championship game? Maybe, but certainly you have to be impressed with what he's doing right now, because the offense is shining, he's shining, and they're starting to hit that next gear, which is what they need to get to while SEC play ramps up.
I'm still sticking with my guns that LSU goes 11-1, and until somebody knocks them off for that 2. I from what I've seen that's left on the schedule, I still see 11-1. You mentioned the sacks and the shuffling of the offensive line.
Right.
A stat that caught me really off guard. LSU's 4th best in the SEC right now with giving up sacks. They've only given up 9 in 4 games, which is
how successful he is with a successful offensive line. It's like almost your quarterback's only as good as your offensive line lets them be.
Yeah, absolutely. And he took like 44 last year. I don't have that in front of me. I'm
crazy. If that's
off the top of my head.
That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it's 44. Someone in the comments, if you Google it, correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know how good I am for pulling that off the top of my head. But that shows that sometimes you feel like there's woes on your team, and then you start looking around at what everybody else is doing. It's like, oh, I guess we're not as bad as we think we are. Ole Miss, by the way, is 3rd worst in the league with sacks. They've given up 19. So I think that'll be a big point of emphasis, is actually getting after the quarterback and putting him on the ground, because a lot of the defensive struggles today on Saturday were indeed, you got after him, but he got away.
Yeah.
You got to put him on the ground with a struggling
TJ
defensive.
Jefferson's a completely different beast, man. Like, he is.
Yeah.
That's a specimen of a quarterback. My goodness
Oh,
gracious.
he's something.
We talked to Braden Swinson today, and he was just talking about how damn near impossible it was to bring him down. I mean, he is a freak. Like,
that's why I don't understand how you make that call. How do you see a 260-pound quarterback who probably runs a 4.8 40?
Yep.
It's not like Harold Perkins hit him helmet to helmet, and it wasn't that late. I don't.
It's just kind of like, you can't treat him like a quarterback for them. Like, he's just so big and so strong. It's hard to treat him like a quarterback, and that's kind of, what Brian Kelly alluded to in his post-game press conference was, he is so big and he is so strong and he is so talented that it's hard to not want to hit him as hard as you can, because if you hit him lightly, he's not going to go down. And we saw that with Perkins, and ultimately he got flagged for it.
LSU man, hit that like, y'all. Yes, everybody hit that like button. Y'all know the running gag if you watch the show. Mike Scarborough does make fun of me if I don't get enough likes. So y'all help me get some likes. Maybe we can get above 200 this week, and we'll be feeling good about ourselves with 200 likes, and I can keep the Scarborough at bay for just a little while longer. So guys, I do want to talk about who makes this show possible, and that is our sponsors. We got to talk about Celebrity Theater real quick. They have weekday specials at all their locations, making it more affordable to go there. You got Monday, Senior Savings Day, $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. You've got Bargain Tuesday, discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. Tuesday is college night, so any college students watching, it's $5 after 5 p.m. for you. And the Baton Rouge location has half off all arcades, so if you're an arcade junkie, there you go. Thursday at the Baton Rouge location only is the Thirsty Thursday discounted bar items. And guys, for those of you with a special woman in your life, or maybe someone like Zack who's just desperately searching for a new hobby, the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, they're selling tickets for, so you can watch it in that Dolby Atmos 3D thing. Do you care about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift dating?
You read my mind, dude. I was sitting here just thinking about how sick and tired I am hearing about this Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift drama. Now, look, I get it. Like, there's like Swifties or whatever they call them and all that stuff. Like, it's certainly a topic of conversation, but my goodness, I'm about to mute the words Taylor Swift on Twitter so that I just don't have to see this anymore, because wow. And I love Travis Kelce. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. Like, super talent on my fantasy team. Like, he's a dog. He's actually a dog.
He's got that dog in him. He's got multiple dogs in him.
He's a dog. But man, I love Travis Kelce, but this stuff is ridiculous.
My favorite part is the
shout out Celebrity Theater. Shout out them.
So you're not gonna go watch the Eras Tour at Celebrity Theaters?
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll use my my Celebrity Theater.
Maybe you can wait. Hold on. I'm about to say you can use your little VIP card. We got you.
Mm-hmm. A lot of ladies out there like Taylor.
I'm about to say that's an in. I'm just saying you're single. I have to go. I don't have a choice. There's no acquisition in it for me. I have a wife, but I'm just saying opportunities, man. And it doesn't even cost you anything. And I'm gonna be honest, you get to pull the card out. You look really important.
Oh, you're not wrong.
You know what I'm saying? I think we might have found your new hobby. Anyways, all right. We also got to thank Alumni Hall. Hey, Tiger fans, when you want to show your Tiger pride, Alumni Hall is your ultimate shopping experience. The best and largest selection for apparel of the whole family. They've got Nike, Nike Golf, Champion, Columbia, Peter Millar, Southern Tide hats, Yetis, gifts, and accessories. LSU students, faculty, and military receive 10% off in-store every day. And you can earn cash back with their Hall Pass rewards. Alumni Hall, located in Perkins Row, or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Tiger fans shop. And guys, if you go there, they're telling us tons of people just say, hey, TigerBait sent us in. And I cannot tell y'all how much I appreciate y'all letting our sponsors know that their dollars are going to good use. So let's shift gears a little bit. I'm going to check to see if we have any good comments here. Like Kim M, I hit the like. Do it again, Krim. Come on. And we're gonna see. Let's see. Did y'all notice Brian Kelly won the toss and didn't take the ball? Do you have an opinion on that? Scarborough is very opinionated on that. I don't know that I care either way.
It's tough. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, usually you want to get the ball first and go do your thing because your offense is so damn spectacular this season. But yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that, to be honest to you.
No, there are some coaches who like to defer to the second half because it sets you up with an opportunity to score and then get the ball back, and then you out possession your opponent, which is a huge way to win a game. I mean, I think that they've done a lot of analytics that show if you get one more possession than your opponent, how likely you are to win the game goes up a good bit. Simple country lawyer Larry Guy asked Zack, not Preston Guy, asked Zack, would tempo offense help and would Corey Webster help the defense?
I'll take it for the first part. Obviously this team runs in a tempo style offense like crazy. I mean, you rarely see them line up in a huddle, and they're pushing the tempo in a significant pace. I love what Jayden Daniels brings to the table. And for the most part, when we were watching during fall camp, it was go, go, go. And Brian Kelly was kind of talking about how the clock doesn't stop when you get a first down now. So you're losing a couple of downs per game, whether it's, maybe 5, 6, 7, just a handful of them. But, he was talking about consistently moving at a fast pace. And it's something that really benefits this team, especially with somebody like Jayden Daniels at the helm who, loves to move really quickly. So would tempo help the offense? Yes. Should they continue to do it? Yes. And should they do it even faster? Yes. So completely agree with you on all facets of that.
Yeah, I would be hesitant about tempo simply because we talked about rhythm with Jayden Daniels being that was what Brian Kelly kept on saying over and over again, which watching film, there's literally no way, like, what's the rhythm? Like, what does that mean to me? I don't know how to check for, like, did he take an extra step back or whatever else? He did look uncomfortable and off balance. I'll say that. And I would stick with whatever tempo keeps him in rhythm, because in rhythm, he's one of the best country quarterbacks in the country, and out of rhythm, he's Jekyll. He's not Jayden anymore. He's Jekyll. Corey Webster, do you have any comments on that? I'm going to dodge that one.
No comments on that.
Carl Dunn says, hey, simple country lawyer Larry Guy. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. I do have some notes here. I went and watched the film, and what shocked me was I kind of thought it would be like a lot of broken down coverages, right? Like, okay, guy missed this guy, or that was just bad coverage. It was a diverse set of issues. Of course, we talked about getting pressure but not getting the sack. Like, a lot of times the pocket would break down, but he's able to maneuver and buy 3-4 seconds or run up and make a play. That was a common issue. Missed tackles from the defensive backs.
Yeah.
Okay, this defensive backfield right now is one of the worst tackling defensive backfields I've ever seen it, including Andre Sam, who is, he is so high energy. I love what you're seeing out of Andre Sam. And he opened the game, by the way, one of the first plays of the game, with just a huge hit and tackle on a defender and on I think it was a tight end in the flats, where he just smacked the hell out of him, put him down. I was like, good.
Right.
That's what Andre Sam's been missing. But then it recurred. There was one play where he's in quarterback spy right in the middle, which is a little strange for a safety to be quarterback spying, but that's what they did with him. It's one of the things I did like about this Matt House defense on the film is they do a lot of different things that confuse, quarterbacks.
He does a lot defensively. He does a lot of different schemes he throws at him.
Right, and it just throws people off. And on that play, they called a twist, which is a stunt on the defensive line where you tend to leave that middle more open and you're over aggressively charging the edge. And they did, and the outside collapsed, and they have one guy to cover the middle from the defensive line. It's kind of easy to seal him off and get a lane up, but that's why you put a spy. Well, Andre Sam didn't break down and tackle. He wasn't the only one. Harris missed the tackle. Major Burns missed tackles. Zy Alexander missed tackles. So that's probably the lone biggest issue you can fix is teaching your DBs to chop your feet, be calm, wrap up, make the tackle, put your guy on the ground, right? Zy Alexander gets beat on this one a lot in his zone coverage plays. He's playing off ball, an off defender, right? So he's giving that defender 5 yards cushion. I assume because he doesn't trust his speed over the top, he'd rather give away the underneath stuff. Dig routes are killing Zy Alexander right now. I don't know if that's exactly how Coach House is coaching it up and wanting to give up the 10, 12 yard game to save the 25, 30 yard gain, but that is happening a lot. Penalties, we talked about the Harold Perkins. We talked about there was holding call that saved their drive. And this is a big one. Denver Harris keeps on. Let me see. Someone asked about him. Let me put their comment up here. Carl the Cat Dunn. Good evening, guys. Grade on Denver Harris. Denver Harris is actually doing good coverage for the most part, but he can't find the ball. He keeps on missing the ball in the air.
One of his scrambling stands out like a sore thumb. Back left corner of the end zone.
Well, he gave up basically the same play.
Just didn't turn. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for the most part, I don't want to say like he's fundamentally sound or anything technical of that nature, but from a coverage perspective, he's doing what he needs to do.
He's there.
There are just little things that need to be tweaked, and that's what Brian Kelly's been talking a lot about when it comes to Denver Harris. Is he's coachable. Like there are things that he still needs to learn in order to hit that next gear, and little things like turning your head or wrapping up on a tackle, just small little minimalistic things
right.
are what's going to unlock Denver Harris and allow him to be this talented SEC cornerback that we really think he can get to. So what would you grade him?
C-. What would you?
A fair assessment. Probably like a B- C is probably where I'd probably sit around a C.
I'm probably a little more critical just because of how pivotal the plays he's given up were and how makeable they were.
And you also got a second watch. Like I didn't do a second watch just yet. So
right.
You're a step ahead.
Right. And that's always unfair, no doubt. But my thing is the optimistic part, you see the talent. You see him there making the play. It's just he's a couple inches away.
He's a 5-star for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And there's plenty of 4 and 5 stars on this defense. I do think that this is a technique issue. And I think a lot of your defense is execution technique. Everybody keeps on talking about, does Matt House this, Matt House this? I like the play calling. I like the scheme for the most part. There was a couple plays of scheme where they gave up things because of how they chose to play the coverage. Sometimes they have a safety 12 yards back covering the guy in the seam, and they just throw it 5 yards to the guy in the seam in his own coverage, which that's a scheme issue. Yeah. But for the most part, it is just players being in position. Okay, the tight end to the what was his name? Luke Haas.
Or up.
If I could go without hearing the name Luke Haas ever again.
He's not even a tight end at the he was playing like a big receiver, man. He was super talented. We were talking about him today, man. He tore up LSU on Saturday night, I'll tell you that. My goodness gracious.
That's just a blown coverage. That's guy coming down to attack the quarterback, and
he should not have done what he did on
he just snuck upfield and he's wide open by 30 yards. It's like, well, that's just a blown assignment. So I've been talking here for a while, and then I didn't even talk about, okay, there were just times where they put pressure, but they gave him too long to pass. If you're going to blitz guys, you can't give him 4 seconds. I mean, 4 seconds on a blitz is a death sentence because you've got guys man-to-man, one-on-one coverage. You've got no extra help. You gotta, especially with these struggling DBs, 4 seconds, game over, man. He's
too long.
This veteran quarterback's going to cook you every single time. So that's a plethora of issues. It's not a ton of 1 or 2 or 3 issues. It's all over the place. I suppose, and Brian Kelly talked about in his press conference, there's no cavalry arriving. There's no help on the way. The guys you're seeing, there's no secret weapon on the bench. And the one that came to mind was maybe LaTerrence Welsh. Are there any guys not playing right now that you would like to see that you're a little disappointed to hear that comment?
I mean, look, you're playing the guys that you have for right now, and obviously you throw out the name LaTerrence Welch, and he was a guy who emerged during spring camp. He looked fantastic during the spring. The spring game, he was if there were three guys who stood out, LaTerrence Welch was a standout during the spring game. Had a great offseason, looked pretty good when given opportunity during fall camp, but for some ungodly reason, he's just not seeing the field right now. And there might be things that I'm by no means in the locker room or on the field. Like I'm not sure. There's some things that we might not know, from the outside perspective. But for him to be not seeing the field with such a struggling secondary is interesting, in my opinion. But like I said, there are things that we just don't know. So you use the weapons that you have, whether it's Deuce Chestnut, Zai, Denver, Ashton Stamps might get some run towards the end of the season. But, or now, you never really know. But you use what you've got. And for them to not use Welch is a name that I'm sitting back and thinking, like, I wonder what's going on behind the scenes in that regard.
I'm going to thank some sponsors real quick, and then we're going to get to a bunch of questions. I've been scrolling through, and I was like, man, that's a good question. That's a good question. So I'm going to get to those, and we'll close out a little bit after that. So we're going to give the show to y'all moving forward. But I do have to thank a couple sponsors. Of course, we have to thank Celebrity Theaters as our title sponsors. All Celebrity Theaters house 8 to 10 auditoriums. Whether you're interested in hosting a birthday, private movie screening, corporate meeting, arcade party, we have the perfect facility to fit your needs. Celebrity Theaters is proud to offer birthday packages for children of all ages. Let us handle everything from movies to entertainment, to setup to cleanup. For more information or to book your party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events or give them an email at events@celebritytheaters.com. And of course, maybe an event you would really enjoy is if you're like Zack Nagy and you're single and want to bring a girl to the Eras tour, they're going to be doing that in Dolby Atmos 3D. So go to their website to check that out. Okay. I also have to talk to y'all about, let's see if I can get you to go little.
Show them the artwork.
So the icons to work the screens in this interface is just not very representative of what I'm trying to get the screen to do, guys. But anyways, I got to talk to y'all about Spectre Sports Art. Of course, our show is presented by his newest piece, the legendary Dylan Cruz 7, which I have right here. Okay. Very good piece. Smoking the cigar, doing the championship. We got the Smoking Joe Burrow behind me, which is his most popular piece he's ever sold. The Spectre art is guaranteed to catch the eye of any Tiger fan. You see the bright colors, you see the iconic scenery, but the details are what's gonna hold their eye. You can see Joe Burrow behind me, right? He's got, the note below him that says, "You're not good enough, give up, quit," right? You've got the championship trophy. You've got his ring. You've got his Heisman trophy in the background. On the Dylan Cruz, you've got a puzzle piece on his armband, which represents his work with, helping disabled children come see baseball games, the Cruz Crew. All of his pieces have little Easter eggs just scattered throughout them. So whatever it is, they've got it. Dylan's family purchased the Cruz 7 one I just showed you, and it now hangs proudly next to his many awards in the family man cave. Now you can have the opportunity to hang a replica of that exact same photo in your man cave. Same thing with Joe Burrow, right? In the same house with his Heisman trophy, he has that painting in his parents' house. So you can get the work that these athletes are actually buying themselves, and you can put it in your house, and it's cheaper than ever because you can use the TigerBait code TigerBait10 and get 10% off your first purchase. Guys, link in the description of this video. He's got the Bayou collection. He's made other pieces. He's got the Tommy Tanks piece he's just putting out. He's supposedly going to send me one to show off on the show soon. We've got the Drew Brees, the Saint, to celebrate his retirement. You've got the Tiger Stadium piece behind me. And they've got every kind of shape and size to fit your every need. So y'all go make sure to check out SpectreSportsArt.com. Use the link in the description of this video to go see the Bayou collection. All right. Comment time. Let's start up here and I'll just work my way down. Here's a good one here.
There's a lot of them.
There's some really good, insightful comments here, and I like that because we can engage with you and take it directions and be spontaneous instead of my long list of prepared notes and bullet points. How will Jayden perform when teams take away Malik and Thomas and make it through progressions? That's a very good question, and I have a lot of thoughts on that. Go ahead, Zach.
So it's a really good question because Brian Kelly kind of hinted at that the other day, just saying that he was kind of talking about like bracket coverage on Malik Neighbors, where kind of like the safety might be, deep in the defensive backfield, but he's spying on Malik Neighbors. So he'll have basically a double team for the most part. And by doing that, it puts a man-on-man coverage on Brian Thomas Jr. And they exploited the hell out of that, over the last couple of weeks. And you're seeing Brian Thomas put up these fantastic numbers. And I'll point, to the most recent game against Arkansas when they were playing bracket coverage on Malik Neighbors. Brian Thomas ate. I mean, there was no stopping him, and he beat his defender every single time, caught the ball for the most part. And obviously it did what he needed to do. And if they do it the opposite way and do it on Brian Thomas, Malik will do his thing. So it's hard to take both of them out of the game just because it's virtually impossible because they're both just so talented. But hypothetically, if you do take both of them out of the game, I'd love to see Chris Hilton become this deep threat that we know that he's so, gifted at being.
Yeah.
He can get down the field in the blink of an eye if you put him in the slot. He's tremendously fast. He has great hands. He's physical. I'd love to see him get some more run. And if they do that, or if they don't do that, then you also have Aaron Anderson in your arsenal, who is a guy that you can just give a screen pass and allow him to turn it upfield. So you have an embarrassment of riches at the receiver position, and it's only a matter of time until you have to use all of them. But it's virtually impossible to take both Malik and Thomas out of the game just because they're just so gifted.
So does that mean you're writing off your ULL boy, Kyron Lacey?
I don't want to go down that path and write him off just yet. The drops are tremendous.
Yeah, they're concerning.
In the comments, and really anybody who watches football knows that the drops are inexcusable. And it's kind of been it's been repetitive. It happened last year. It's happened to start this year. It's been a struggle for Kyron.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write him off just yet. I believe that he can, hit that next gear over time, but there's certainly a level of progression that he needs to make in order to get to that level.
I agree. I would like to see Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson emerge and then work in Kyron Lacey. I noticed Chris Hilton got in the game, right? And he was in position where he was going to run a go route on man coverage, not deep man either. He was lined up out 5-7 yards back, which, knowing what I've seen out of Chris Hilton in fall camp, means that DB was about to get creamed. and Jayden was certainly looking to him, but Sam Pittman caught it. They did their film study and they knew what Chris Hilton did, and they adjusted to Chris Hilton, which hopefully opens up Malik and Brian Thomas, and it should have, because they both had 130 yards in this game. First duo to do that since, can you tell me who?
Not sure.
Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. You probably didn't need two guesses for that one.
I didn't need one.
You didn't take one, so yeah. Anyways, the guys they were getting there. I don't think this is necessarily a situation where teams are just going to go all in on those two, but you do have to get Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson developed to be threats that force teams to play honest, right? I would like to see Aaron Anderson less on the bubble screeny type stuff and get him more on like dig routes, slant routes, like get him on a curl route. You know what I mean? Like stop trying to get him the ball at the line of scrimmage and try to get in that medium range passing, or even 3 to 4 yards past line of scrimmage passes. Because if you're going to take so many of those, you might as well put the ball in the hands of a dynamic receiver. Of course, Aaron Anderson, 2 catches for 14 yards, and Chris Hilton, nada. Right. But I do think those two will develop as the season goes on. We will see for sure. Very good comment there. We're going to put actually, Riley has a couple comments. We got a 3-part comment here. Don't understand how we blame House when he puts guys in position to make plays. They whiff on tackles on third down when they could have stopped them too many yards. And Riley, that's what I was talking about with the defensive breakdown. It's mostly execution issues, less scheme issues. The sad part is with scheme, all you have to do is call plays better to fix it. Easier said than done, but it is a one. How do you fix the plethora of issues I just named? You have to go one by one and fix them. And that means usually you're going to slowly, this one will get fixed, that one will get fixed. It's pretty slow, which of course, Big Coon is Kelly. 100 spot on. I guess I'll allow your comments up there, even though you called me a chihuahua. This is the comment, though, where I wanted to open a dialogue on. The defense was in positions to make plays and either couldn't tackle Jefferson or whiffed open field tackles, right? A lot of missed tackles.
Right.
I also want to talk about, on those missed tackles, the defensive line. They were getting a pressure, but weren't quite getting there, weren't quite forcing that bad throw, weren't quite getting him to the ground, gave him a lane, whatever else. Did I notice the defensive line a lot of times was playing 1 to 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, or the defensive tackles were sometimes really far back in their stance, almost like an offensive tackle about to pass block. Did you notice the defensive line playing a little odd, or is that just me?
I think that's fair. I mean, for the most part, I saw a little bit of that, but kind of just sticking on the defensive line as a whole, they were causing commotion, inside in the trenches, but they just weren't getting home. And that's something that you kind of alluded to, where you were saying they were getting to the quarterback and touching him, forcing him out of the pocket, getting some hits on him, but just couldn't take him down.
Yeah.
And that's something that obviously needs to change. Jordan Jefferson's been somebody who has kind of emerged as a key guy, and him and Mackay, and you have all these guys who ultimately need to get the job done. But getting home and causing commotion are two completely different things. And in order for this group to kind of hit that next gear, which is what I like to say a lot, is you have to get home. And that was a struggle against KJ. And it's been a struggle, all season for the most part, if we're going to talk about whiffs and stuff like that. The yards after contact, yards after catch against Florida State,
yeah,
is certainly an eye-opener. And obviously some things need to change as SEC
tackle.
play.
I almost wonder with the defensive backs if it's time to do full tackle football in your drills during the week. Because, I mean, that's what we did in high school when we missed tackles. We would say, look, we got to get back to live speed. I know we don't do it a ton because that's how you get injuries, but
right.
I mean, you got to eventually. And this is what I was talking about, Riley, with another comment. His stance looked it looked like a pass set. A defensive line. I wonder if losing Jimmy Lindsey is starting to take a toll. Not even necessarily saying John Janik is a bad coach or anything like that. Just the lack of continuity to shake up and stuff like that, to go from one message to another, a guy who teaches it one way versus a guy who teaches it another.
Right.
Not ideal. And the fact that we're seeing these discipline issues from the defensive line, and that's going on, that's where questions need to come out.
What are your thoughts on Mason Smith at this point in the year? Kind of like staying on the defensive line. Kind of want to get your take on that for a little bit. Like, what do you think about Mason Smith? Like, obviously, game shape and game speed is completely different than fall practice and getting into the swing of things is a challenge. But, I mean, a lot of LSU fans are just sitting back saying, like, he needs to come back for another year, like all this and that. And obviously it's for selfish reasons, but what's kind of your like analysis or diagnosis of what you've seen from Mason Smith over, a small sample size of just 3 weeks?
Mason Smith has been mostly a non-factor, mostly. I mean, he's made a play every here and there, but he did not look like he looked like the previous 10 games he played as an LSU Tiger. I had a high ankle sprain when I played high school ball, and I remember it hurt for 9 weeks.
Right.
I was not 100% until the second to last game of the regular season. And that makes me think that, okay, he gets to the point where he can play, but is he pushing off as explosively as he needs to? And then, of course, there's the shape question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's out of shape. I think he's rusty. And I think he's playing a little hurt. I think he's probably playing at 85% at best right now. And I think that he definitely needs to be on the field so you can shake that rust off, because he is your most talented defensive tackle. But Jordan Jefferson might be playing better football right now.
He's been fantastic. I mean, you can't talk about the defensive line, because we can sit here and criticize as much as we want and talk about whiffs and different schemes or all these different things about the defense. But at the end of the day, you're seeing some guys step up to the plate, and one of those guys is really Jordan Jefferson. And last season we saw that with Mekhi Wingo. When Mason Smith went down, Mekhi Wingo entered the fold and had this, honorable mention, third-team All-America type year. Like, he was somebody who looked the part. And Jordan Jefferson's really stepping up when this team needs him most. So obviously I'm not going to sit here and write off somebody as talented as Mason Smith, but you're seeing some other guys, step up to the plate, and Jordan Jefferson is one of those guys.
Yeah, and overall, he wants to see more out of our defensive line. That being said, guys, overall, I don't want to bash the defensive line too badly because they did get pressure, and they
Absolutely.
have gotten pressure. It's just about finishing the play. When your defense is so close to making plays, just not actually getting it, again, those are just simple execution issues, and that's with time and consistency, you will get there. I hope to see Deshaun Womack get some more snaps. I understand he's not a complete player yet, similar to Caleb Jackson on the offensive side, right? You've got Diggs, who's a much more complete player, but I think most people think Jackson has more talent. I saw a really good play out of him this weekend. Did you like that?
I love what Womack brings to the table, man. He is such a special talent. Like I said about Denver Harris earlier, 5-star for a reason. And if you're talking about Deshaun Womack, I mean, dude, that play that he had on special teams against Grambling a couple weeks ago where he just absolutely pancaked the guy, for him to get down the field that quickly, for him to obviously be as strong and tenacious as he is already is all impressive. And you're only going to learn in game situations. Yeah. So obviously you don't want to put your team in a bind by putting in a freshman, but man, he's more than capable of holding his own. And I'm intrigued to see the development that he takes over the next couple of months, because you can put him as an edge rusher, jack linebacker. You can do whatever you need from him. He's so versatile. I love what Deshaun Womack brings to the table, man. I could talk about him forever.
There's a lot of players who, as freshmen, made their name on special teams while they sat back and learned a little bit. I think about Jarvis Landry. I think about Tyrann Mathieu in that regard, right? And I wonder if this is just going to be one of those years where he's kind of quietly does his business and comes on and makes a play or two here and there. But on special teams, he's an absolute beast. And then toward the end of the year, he starts to curve up. And then next year, he just delivers a huge year. That's kind of what I'm thinking with him, what we're going to see. And look, Carl Dunn just brought up exactly what I was about to ask. $2,500 for the Lady Tigers basketball practice. Not a game, practice. We're talking about practice.
It was unbelievable. I had the opportunity to sit over there. I was talking to my boy Bryce, Matt, a couple of the guys out there. And it was such a great scene to watch that. Haley Van Lit's as good as advertised. Watch her hit 5 of 6 logo threes. And it was just impressive, man. She has range, compact, quick jump shot, as good as advertised. Anisha Mora, the DePaul transfer, as good as advertised. And then some. She has a really fluid jump shot, and she's somebody that is going to, obviously an All-American. You expect the best from her, but she's going to be an immediate impact player, of course, as she should be. And you have that big three of Angel, Haley Van Lith, and I mean, Haley, Angel, and Anisha is going to be something special. So that practice was impressive. Kim Mulkey has a star-studded, roster that she's created, and her staff's also as talented as the players. So what she's created is something special, and they're going to be incredible.
Bryce Kuhn, I got to get to him in a second. The guard play should be improved this year. I mean, I know you lose, Lex Luthor, but I mean, Morrow, and and what's her name, Haley Van Lith. I mean, you should be much improved over the perimeter this year, right? I mean, LSU was dominant in the paint, but
I mean that backcourt is tremendous. Haley Van Lith is a superstar. People forget that you have the SEC Freshman of the Year in Flau'jae Johnson as well. She has become a lockdown defender, can get a bucket when you need her to do that. She's a special talent. So your backcourt is as talented as they come. You put Anisha, Angel, you have Aaliyah Del Rosario, the 6'6" freshman up at center too. Like there's so many different outlets that you can go with these rotations and these starting lineups. It's something tremendous to see. The true freshman class, like I said, the number one class in the country.
Michaela Williams, who we haven't even talked about.
Michaela Williams is unreal. I was talking to assistant coach Gary Reedus a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that she has National Player of the Year in her future. She's a special talent. She's a workhorse. She's the complete package. She can shoot the ball. She can score from all 3 levels, and that's somebody that you have to look at and know that that's somebody who's going to be here for a couple of years and more than gifted.
Gary Revis, by the way, I love that guy. He's so hype.
Brings the
He's the
energy
ultimate
every day
hype
of the
man.
week, man.
Yeah, I hope he can stay around for a while.
Me too. And
Um,
speaking on the women's basketball team, I put a little something on the website, a little practice notes and stuff, just to kind of
yeah,
dive into the practice as a whole, because there was just so many things to take in during that, hour and a half, 2 hour long time that we got to sit there and watch them. And it's a special team, man. It's
yeah,
obviously a championship or bust year. Mulkey's doing some special things, and everybody's got to tune in because
and a good Whit Weeks piece too, by the way.
what was that?
That was really your Whit Weeks piece. I saw that. That was
Put out a thing about Whit Weeks today. It's fantastic. He's a fantastic interview.
yeah. Um, and then men's basketball team. You got to check them out. Seems to be a little less buzz around them.
It is what it is. Matt McMahon's kind of in the middle of, building something different on that side of things. And I was sitting there with Mike today, kind of just watching some things and taking it in. And look, they brought in a handful of transfers. There's a lot of Louisiana flair. Carlos Stewart's a guy that I'm intrigued to see. Obviously, Jordan Wright. The Jalen Cook waiver situation is something that the entire LSU fan base wants to see, solely because, you don't know what's going to happen. He's a second-time transfer. He has to get that waiver from the NCAA, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But look, that team is on the uptrend. Matt McMahon's killing the recruiting game, so we'll see ultimately what this team looks like. But you get that team to gel with the talent that you have, and it could get super special because it's only up from here. You can't get worse. Respectfully
Yeah.
to that program, it was a challenge.
Well, hold up now. I don't know if you've watched LSU basketball long enough. It can get worse.
I don't. I mean, it was a brutal last season on the
Yeah,
beach
it was brutal.
for that team. So,
But
you can only go up from here, and McMahon's certainly doing his due diligence on the recruiting trail. So, I think it's going to be a better year than last year. And
my thing is with McMahon, he inherited a team with no scholarship players, like zilch, nada. He had one walk on, right? So at that point, that is what he's handed. Where's the bar set? Like what? Win 3 SEC games? I mean, he artificially rose the bar himself by recruiting so well and building that team back so well. But when you look at the actually what he was handed, I mean, he met expectations last year. Now this year, there's going to be a standard to move it a step further, and he's still recruiting well.
Right.
He's still recruiting very well. So we'll see. Hopefully, 2 basketball teams will be good this year. Very, very important question from Bryce Kuhn. Zack, how do you feel about charcuterie boards as the media meal?
Bryce is a clown, and I'm not going to comment on that. That is hilarious, though.
You're accurate on that. Is it better or worse than shrimp etouffee made with tomatoes?
Oh my gosh, I'm not doing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god, I was foolish enough to try it, and it was so bad. It was so bad. I was just like, give me the hot dogs, man.
Unbelievable. I didn't touch it.
Well, you're a New Orleans and Lafayette guy. You probably knew better when you saw the tomatoes in there.
I got the best of the best on deck. I don't need to be touching that stuff.
I should have ran for the hills, but I guess my inner Baton Rouge was like, let's give it a chance, because the alternative is a hot dog. Halftime cookies were amazing, though. I'll say that.
It's my post-game meal every time. Probably need to lay off of them, but yeah.
I think we all need to. All right, guys. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. This was a fun show. Of course, we'll be back at our regular time Monday next week with Zack. It's been a while since we had a Monday and Zack, but we're going to get that next week. Hopefully, no crazy Bengals or Saints game there to distract us and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed the show, please hit that like button so our analytics look better, and share the show. Share it to your Twitter, social, whatever else, where your Facebook groups, share it there so people could come watch the show. Appreciate all of y'all. Y'all make sure to go follow Zack. He's trying to grow his social media. He puts out really good stuff, like really detailed, good, hardworking stuff he put together, like the Week story. He covers, I mean, he's like ESPN 8, the Ocho for LSU. If it resembles a sport, he's probably there covering the Quidditch team and all that good stuff on campus. So y'all give him a follow at Nagy20. And I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and we will see y'all next week.